This is the story of David Barnes, a 67-year-old American father wrongfully detained in a Russian prison, a man whose only crime was fighting for his children in a corrupt, profit-driven court system that failed him. A story that exposes the American legal system's betrayal of fathers, children, and families. The system is supposed to protect families, to ensure justice, and to prioritize the best interests of the child. But for David Barnes, it did none of that. Instead, it empowered a broken system to destroy his life and his relationship with his children. David's story begins in Montgomery County, Texas. After a contentious divorce, his ex-wife, Svetlana Koptyaeva, accused him of abusing their two sons. Texas authorities investigated these claims thoroughly and found no evidence to support them. But that wasn't enough to stop the wheels of a corrupt system. In 2019, while custody proceedings were still ongoing, Svetlana fled the country with the children, taking them to Russia without David's consent. Despite a Texas court designating David as the primary guardian, the system allowed her to leave without repercussions. No accountability, no consequences, just a father left behind, powerless. This is where the corruption becomes undeniable. Fathers like David are forced to fight an uphill battle. The courts turn a blind eye to mothers breaking the law, while fathers are left to prove their innocence over and over again. It's a system that thrives on greed, conflict, and emotional manipulation, where profit outweighs justice. David refused to give up on his children. In late 2021, he traveled to Russia to legally reestablish contact with his sons. But instead of finding justice, he found a nightmare. Russian authorities arrested David on January 13, 2022, based on the same abuse allegations that Texas had already dismissed as baseless. On February 13, 2024, David was convicted in a Russian court and sentenced to 21 years in a high-security penal colony, a conviction based on allegations that were already proven false. This isn't justice. This is political theater. David Barnes is now a pawn in a geopolitical game, caught between two nations that have failed him. David's family has been fighting tirelessly to bring him home. His sister Carol has spoken out about the injustice, the lack of U.S. action, and the corruption that allowed this to happen. But the system that failed David in Texas is now failing him on an international scale. This story isn't just about David Barnes. It's about every father who's been silenced by a system that sees them as disposable. A system that allows mothers to use children as pawns with no accountability. A system that profits from broken families, all while pretending to protect them. The truth is hard to ignore. The courts don't care about justice. They care about profit. They pit parents against each other, feeding off their pain, and using children as collateral damage. And fathers, they're labeled as villains, forced to fight for basic rights to their own children. It's time to wake up. It's time to hold the system accountable. David Barnes deserves to come home. His children deserve their father. And we, as a society, must demand change. No more corruption. No more greed. No more families torn apart by a system designed to profit from their pain. Share David's story. Demand justice. Fight for fathers. Together we can expose the lies, end the corruption, and bring David Barnes home.